right, guys, welcome back. We are going to be going over green today. We're getting really, really close. I guess with green, there's only, what, maybe 2 more videos? Multicolor and colorless lands, artifacts, all of that jazz. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in. Yanks is with us again. We're going to start with the bullet, right? Like a girl bull.
Sounds like it to me.
Isn't that not a bull? Isn't that a cowette?
Well, it would just be a cow.
Yeah, I was trying to play along. Okay, anyway, at the beginning of your end step, if a creature died this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on it. So 3/3 for 4. Okay, so we've seen something similar to this. There was like a panther a few sets ago that untapped and got a counter if a creature died, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there seems to be some amount of creatures in this set that care about if a creature died this turn. We saw some in black as well.
Yes. So it is 1 more mana than I would like to see for a 3/3, but it doesn't take a whole lot for this to be good. And also you can like make a trade and then play this second main to where your like opponent isn't expecting this, where they might have just taken the 2 or something before.
Yeah, I think pretty often you're just going to be able to play this as a 4-mana 4/4, the same turn. Remember, it doesn't have to be your creature that dies. It can be a creature on either side of the board. So I think it should be pretty easy to get that first trigger on this card.
And we tend to like 4-mana 4/4s, like in the range of a 3 to a 3.5 if they do something. And this one technically gets bigger and scarier over time. So, at worst, you're forcing them to use premium removal on your like common filler 4-drop, which is not bad.
Yeah, this definitely has some upside. It also obviously does have the fail case of being a 3/3. Like if you top deck it on an empty board or late in the game, it's subpar, but as long as it stays on the board, it's going to get that counter at some point.
Awesome. Do you like it at a 3?
Yep. Right in that range.
All right. Bull's Strength, 2 mana instant speed, +2/+2 until end of turn and untap it. So it's like 1 less, but you get to untap. Like it's usually +3/+3 kind of thing, but I'm always okay with these kinds of spells. They typically get cut, but I'm always happy when they're not hard to find a good spot for, but usually if you have a decent amount of playables, this isn't something that I feel like I have to be running, but I'm okay with running if I have the space.
Yeah, this is a weird combination of offensive and defensive parts of this card that I'm not really sure what it's trying to be, right? Because trample is obviously an offensive keyword, but untap it, makes it think like some of the previous ones where you get untap and reach or something like that, where it's more of a defensive combination. So it's kind of confused as to what it's trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, it is. You're basically removing +1/+1 for the untap and trample option, and I kind of like it. It lets you use it very flexibly. Like maybe you just want to, trick block your opponent, get +2/+2 and untap basically, and you write off the trample. Or, you put this on your 4/4, trample over what they think is a trade, untap it, and then now they can't attack back. So all of its pieces work very well for like multiple combat steps added together, and it gives you a ton of flexibility.
Yeah, I think the card is fine. It's a fairly run-of-the-mill combat trick.
Normally I would have this at like a 2-ish. I'm gonna give it a 2/5 just because of the flexibility.
Yeah, I'd keep it probably at 2 myself.
I usually have like the giant strength of +3/+3 at a 2. And I do like this a little bit better.
Yeah, that's fair.
Choose your weapon. You can 2-fist fighting. You can double target creature's power and toughness until end of turn. Put it on the blue or the red dragon. Yes, I knew we were gonna find it. Done. Or you can, the spell deals 5 damage to target creature with flying. I have never understood why archers can't hit things that are on the ground, but whatever.
Yeah, it can make sense when they have reach that they can also hit things with flying, but why they can only does not make a whole lot of sense.
Yep. Well, creatures can block. Creatures with reach can block both, right?
Yeah. I guess if they're really close to you, then you can't really hit them because you'd be shooting over them.
They didn't take the point blank range, point blank Pathfinder ability. I mean, I don't like this card particularly myself. I don't think the first part is great enough for me to be putting this in my deck for 3 mana, and the second part is sideboard, so I'm kind of not on board for this card.
Yeah, I'm happy to pick one of these up for the sideboard, but that's about it.
Definitely. Okay, we have a 3 green, and then it's tap add a forest for each creature you control, and it's a 2/1 dork.
I mean, this is just a constructed card, right? I mean, it's Gaia's Cradle on a creature, specifically an elf, so this is designed to slot into your, constructed elf decks or commander elf decks.
Yeah. I mean, some sets can support like the rare like monocolor deck, but it's usually not in green. It's usually like the mono reds or even blacks you might see sometimes in some sets. But I'm not really happy with triple green for a mana dork. I would rather just have a thing that made a single thing and was easier to cast.
Yeah, where you're getting value out of this is in the is if you can flood the board and keep drawing cards, and that's just not, while you're playing creatures to add to the board, it's just not something you see in Limited.
Now, what I would like is if it made mana of any color, then we could use that for the dragon.
Yes, that is true.
All right, guys. So I'm going to give that one a 1. Circle of the Moon Druid. It has bear form. It is a 2/4 for 3. Decent stats as is. And as long as it's your turn, Circle of the Moon Druid is a bear with base 4/2. Okay, so he flips on your turn. He rars, and on their turn, he booties.
Yeah, he attacks as a 4/2 and blocks as a 2/4. It's interesting flavor, although, historically bears are 2/2s, so I'm not sure why it becomes a 4/2, but
that's true. Yeah, I don't know. Would you play this if it was a 3 mana 2/2 that attacked as a 4/2? Probably still playing this.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So that just means that we should probably take that into consideration and rate it slightly higher, right?
Yeah, no, I think this card is good. Your 3 mana 2/4. We play 3 mana 2/3s. Not happily, but would play them. So this is a little bit better than that, even without the ability. And then, the fact that it's an actual threat on offense is a good thing, even though it is at risk to trade down when attacking. Because of the 2 tougher.
So are we thinking a 3?
I think this is like a 2/5 for me. I think it's still it's a little too vulnerable, but I'm happy to play it.
Okay. I think I like it just a little bit more. Compelled Duel. 2 mana, sorcery speed, target creature +3/+3 till end of turn, and must be blocked if able. So in like a more aggressive creature heavy deck, I typically don't like these kinds of sorcery things, but this kind of doubles as like bad removal. So if you are in that green deck that you're struggling to get removal cards, this is something that you could be on the lookout for and pick up or board in if your opponent has like maybe some evasive creatures that you can't really deal with very well. Ideally, I would like other removal, but it is nice that this could also just like be a combat trick that even though it's sorcery speed, it could just kill people.
Yeah, it's interesting because we see this type of effect, but usually doesn't have the big power toughness boost, or it's really expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So this is an interesting card where you 2 mana +3/+3 sometimes you see without the sort of provoke effect.
But that's at instant speed typically.
Yeah. So I think I still think this is a great card, but it's an interesting effect, and you're right, definitely something green decks that are struggling to find removal could play.
So if you're in like green blue, green white, those are going to be the colors that like you tend to not have a ton of good answers for. And then I'm happy to run this. And again, you need creatures. I'm not running this in my 9 creature deck. I'm definitely running this in my 15+ creature deck because I never want this to be a dead draw. So
Yeah, and I remember this is kind of like a sacrifice type effect in limited because they get to choose the blocker. So it's just going to kill their worst creature.
And that's why it's not very good, but very often, like, if you have, like, an aggressive deck as well and you're making trades early, you know, a lot of times they don't have a lot of creatures, and getting their worst creature is sometimes either still good and or their only creature. So, like, you can still find good spots, but I agree, like I said, it's just not as good as normal removal. I like this at, like, a 2.
Yeah, I think I have it. Yeah, I could see 2. I'd probably have it between 1/5 and 2, but it's in that spot.
Okay. Dire Wolf Prowler. It is a 2/2 for 3, and for 2 mana, it gets +2/+2 and gains haste until end of turn. Activate only once. So if you play this any later than turn 3, you can, you know, attack them faster same turn, which is not bad. 2 is a really small pump, so this is pretty reasonable, but you're paying for it up front with the mana cost.
Yeah, this card's okay. I don't want to be, you know, investing mana every turn into a creature that's small just to make it, you know, reasonable.
Agreed.
But, you know, it's not unplayable, and if you have, you know, some of those cards that care about power 6 to attack, it could matter.
Definitely. Yeah, it's you know, so in the last set, Strixhaven, that green 2/2 that required like 5 to pump, that doubled its mana, which was or doubled its power and toughness, which was usually just +2/+2. Every once in a while you could get it to be huge late in the game. But that one cost twice as much. Wait, it's like 5, right, to pump. This is only 2 to pump, but you're paying 1 more for it up front, which I think that card actually kind of surprised me. Like, there was enough times where it actually ended up doing a ton of damage as a 4/4. So it's going to depend how big this set is, but I think this is going to be playable. I still have it at about a 2.
Yeah, agreed. That's right at that filler level.
Tiny text, take it away.
Druid class, 1 and a green for an enchantment. Your first level is whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain a life. Level 2, you can pay 2 and a green to level it up, and you can play an additional land on each of your turns, which then you keep that first ability, so now you can gain up to 2 life a turn on this. And then level 3 for another 4 and a green. When this becomes level 3, target land you control becomes a creature with haste, and this creature's power and toughness are each equal to the number of lands you control. It's still a land.
Gotcha. One sec. Someone's saying that you can only pump that wolf once, so I do know that. That's why I mentioned that card from the previous set was almost always just pumped once, which is 2/2. And that was good enough to make it have a ton of value for me in the last set, that it outperformed what I was expecting at only 1 pump. There was sometimes you could pump that one a 3rd time, but it was so rare that it was not something that, like, I could still use my experience with that card to kind of evaluate this one, right?
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm not a fan of this druid class. What do you think about it?
So I might have blanked out for a quick second on that last one. Target land you control becomes a creature that has haste. So it only does it 1 time?
Yes, you get 1. It stays a creature. It's not till end of turn.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, that's not as bad then. It's only...
You've invested 10 mana at that point, though.
Whenever a land enters the battlefield, so that's kind of not relevant.
Yeah.
You may play an additional land, also not really relevant once you get to that far, right? It's fine, but you typically run out of mana anyway. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan. 10 mana to turn your land into like a 6/6?
Yeah, you get 1 big land that, you know, the second it gets, you know, it can die or just bounce it, and then you're stuck with something that just gives you, you know, life a turn.
You could just play a 6/6 that's under 10 mana. So 1.5?
Yeah, I'm sure there might be some decks that have some huge spells they want to ramp out that are really playing this for level 2.
Yep. Or possibly if you have ways to bounce or flip this, so you can, like, potentially make more lands late in the game to do it, because, you know, if you get a 9/9, 2 9/9s or something like that, it could be kind of cute, but...
Yeah, but yeah, I think it's a 1/5 sounds good to me.
Oh, I cannot see that at all.
Yep, Eliwick Tumblestrum. This is the mono green planeswalker, 4 mana, 2 green for a planeswalker with 4 loyalty. +1, venture into the dungeon. -2, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You can reveal a creature and put it into your hand. If it's a legend, you gain 3 life. Put the rest on the bottom. And -7, you get an emblem with creatures you control have trample and haste, and get +2/+2 for each differently named dungeon you've completed.
So up to 6/6. I like this card. This might be the best planeswalker we've seen yet? It's close.
The only thing I like about this card is that it can't protect itself.
Yeah. It does over time in that it gets you more creatures. But I agree. But also some of the ventures we're doing that at the end, the dungeons, but some of them make 1/1s. I have to see how early that is in the dungeon. But yeah. I mean, if you're using one of those 2 things to protect itself, then that's kind of nice. But I think there's a lot of planeswalkers that don't do that. And this just has all the ones we've seen in the set so far. We said that it has incremental value. Of that incremental value, this one seems like one of the stronger ones, like getting you full cards versus like some of the smaller scries and things we've been seeing.
Yeah, for me, what I'm usually looking for if the planeswalker doesn't protect itself, which is usually its minus ability that protects itself, is I want the plus ability to be able to replace itself. With like a lot of times you'll see blue planeswalkers that can't protect themselves, but they draw a card. To replace themselves right away. This, you might be able to replace yourself right away, but you're going down to 2, so you're probably losing it unless you're on a pretty good board state already.
Or have a blocker, yeah.
Yeah, no, this is a good card. Certainly not, I'm sounding negative about it, but it's a very good card. I'm first picking this every time.
Yeah.
But I
don't
think it's...
White, blue were trash. The red, black, and green now I think are good.
Yeah, I think I like the blue one a little more than you did, but I definitely agree on the white one. And I think I have this probably still below the red one, but they're right next. They're right by each other.
I don't know what we rated the red one, to be honest. 4?
Yeah.
Okay, I gave this one the exact same rating for me.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, they're certainly near each other. I do like that none of these, we've now seen all 5 of the monocolor planeswalkers, and none of them are just the game's over, move on cards that we have seen with some other planeswalkers in the past.
Someone's saying something similar to what I said, that the dungeons can make creatures, so the +1 can protect itself, but it has to be like, in order to do that, you kind of have to guarantee that you're in that room, and I don't know if any of the dungeons have that as the first room. So we'll see when we get there, but I don't think they do. I think it's in the middle, and then I wouldn't count that for working with this, right?
Yeah, one of them is the second room, the other is the 5th, and the other is the last room, which is only the 3rd in the short dungeon. But... So
we're not going to really take that into consideration when deciding whether or not she can protect herself, because likely it'll be the first more often than not. So yeah, I have her at a 4. Let's go ahead and move it on to the Ranger. It is a 5 mana 4/1 with reach. When it enters the battlefield, create a 2/2 wolf creature token. Okay, so that's actually not awful in that it gives you 6/3 power for 5. I mean, that's on par-ish. And it lets you, he eats most flyers and you still get a little bit of a body behind.
Yeah, I like this card. 4/1 is an awkward set of stats if you're trying to attack, but the reach makes this pretty clear this is a defensive creature.
Yes.
And that's fine, because you're going to, that holds back all the 4/4 dragons we've seen.
This is also the kind of card that will protect your green planeswalker that can't protect itself. So if you get this out first, right, you're getting 2 bodies for 1 card, and one of them has reach to stop the evasive creature from finishing off your character. So at common, I like this card a fair amount. It is a bit expensive, so you don't want to be too clunky in your 5 and 6 drop slots. So even though I give this a 3, you still don't want 7 5 drops. So be a little careful, be choosy.
Agreed. Yeah, I think this is right in that 3 range. Solid card, but you can have 2 of them.
Find the Path. It is an enchant land for 3 mana. Whenever you find the path, enter the dungeon. Or when it enters the battlefield, do the thing. And then enchant land has add 2 forests, so it just ramps you 1.
Yeah, it's 3. It's
But if you put this on an island, does it make 3 land?
no, because it's a tap ability. So you either tap it for blue or tap it for green.
Yeah, it adds the second ability, doesn't attach this to its tap ability.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
it's fine.
Yeah, we've seen cards like this where it, where it investigates or gives you a clue token or gives you something, but this is probably one of the lesser ones, and it also doesn't really fix you at all.
Yeah, so ones we've seen in the past that were similar to this made your land into a snow land, giving you 2 snow permanents. There was one that when you could sacrifice it when you no longer needed the mana, giving you a wolf, which was pretty cool.
Yep.
So it like replaced itself as a card when you no longer needed the ramp, and that's part of the downside of having ramp is you are essentially giving yourself card disadvantage for the sake of speed. And we've also seen like play this redraw card. That's been a thing, so it replaces itself. So this is the least amount of value. It also doesn't fix like some of the other ones do, so you have to really want the adventure and you have to really want the ramp.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a very niche deck that wants it.
Yeah, whatever big worms you have, maybe if you have multiples, you find 2 rare premium dragons, sure, you can consider this. But for the most part, I think this is weaker than most of the ones we've seen.
Yeah, I agree. I think most of the ones we've seen in the past, especially the snow one and the wolf one, like you mentioned, or you were happy to play those in most green decks. Here, it's just going to be very, very specific ones.
So 2?
Yeah, this is a 2, but there are definitely decks that just will not play this at all.
Yep, and there are definitely decks that will want it.
Yeah.
So it's honestly probably not a 2. It's probably like a 1 and a 3.
Yeah, it averages out to a 2, but exactly what you said on the split.
All right, we have a 5 mana 4/4 Trampler and Haste, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, exile up to that many target cards from their graveyard. Put a +1/+1 counter on this for each creature exiled that way. You gain 1 life for each non-creature exiled this way. This card seems great.
How can you read that whole card and never actually say Frog Hemoth? It's such a great name.
I don't know. I just skim over the big words. To be honest, I don't think I actually read the word. I just like saw irrelevant text move along.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. This card is great.
The fact that it has haste means it actually impacts the board the turn it comes out. Normally, I would give this a bit of a ding. It can win the game on its own, but it's easy to answer and doesn't actually give you any lasting effect that changes board state in any way. So it's not like a huge bomb to me. But if you can play this when it suits you and you can kind of guarantee that it gets in once, I'm pretty happy with this.
Yeah, the combination of haste and trample together makes it pretty hard for this not to get in unless it's, turn 10, turn 12, something like that.
Yeah.
And then it gets bigger. Yeah, they can kill it, but if it gets in that one shot, there's a chance red in particular is going to have a problem killing it. Or green with fight type spells. So, you're already removing the colors. They don't really want to bounce this because it just comes back with haste again. So this is a good card, and you get some added bonus from life and potentially exiling their graveyard if that happens to matter.
Agreed. There does seem to be there was like a couple of recursion cards, one even in white. Yep. So not a 0 relevance. Do you like this at a 4 or 4/5?
I like this as a 4.
Okay.
It still gets bricked by commons, right? Like a 4/5. So.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be. I mean, we haven't really seen much in the way of 4/5s. We have seen a lot of 5 mana 4/4s. So if you're on the draw, then this is not coming down and hitting oftentimes. If you're on the play, then you're likely to get there. The fact that it gets bigger. So here's the thing, because it has haste, I like that if you can play it when you know you can get in, you kind of bait them into attacking you and then you can swing with this, then it immediately becomes like an 8/8.
Yeah, no, you can set this up for this to be devastating.
I'm leaning towards 4/5. But again, we're close, so. Quick sec, we've got Doobie Jr., Doobie JR, and Vincent. Thank you guys for those subs. Also, someone said that they watched me on game nights and are popping in to say hello. Hello, thank you for coming in and checking out the channel. Much appreciated. All right, moving on, guys. Null Hunter. 2 mana, 2/2. Tactics whenever Null Hunter attacks, if it attacks with creatures total greater 6 or greater, put a +1/+1 counter on this. Okay, so this is, honestly, this ability kind of strikes me as a bit of a win more counter kind of card.
Yeah, we saw this in a bunch of red cards, so I guess that's the Gruul type ability. I agree. A lot of times it's going to be win more, but we saw, at least in red, there's a lot of times where you can, trade some mana to temporarily get this trigger. Which can, when you might actually only have a bunch of small creatures, but then in this case it'll help it grow.
Attack with a treasure, sack a treasure token +2/+0.
Yeah, or the +1/+0 and haste for all your goblins if you have a bunch of those. But yeah, these sort of big counting abilities, we saw one of them in, I think it was Fate Reforged, that was similar. They do tend to have a bit of a win more issue.
So at its worst, guys, it's a bear. But if you've got, the thing that makes me hesitant about this is it's going to try to, you might end up making rash attacks, getting in this trigger, but then letting them eat 2 of your dudes to make that happen, kind of thing. So you need to be kind of at even board or headboard for it to have any text at all. If you're at even and the creatures that when you attack, if those creatures are trading, I'm all for it. If they're eat 1, take 4, and you get a +1/+1 counter for the cost of a card, then that's not super great. So I also really like this in the neighborhood of combat tricks. So if you have, like Yanks was saying, a couple of small things and you poop them out really fast, and then you've got 1 or 2 combat tricks in your hand, you can strike, let them think they're going to eat your 2 dudes, get the counter on this, combat trick them out, like a run amok, right? Those types of abilities are going to make this card very strong. So I think in the average deck, he's going to be a bear plus. In a very good aggressive combat trick deck, this is going to be actually quite good, something you're actively looking for multiples of. I think it would be a 3. I think it's a 2/5 in the average.
Yeah, I agree with that.
A green Dargan, 6 mana, 4/4 with flying, with poison breath. When it enters the battlefield until end of turn, whenever a creature an opponent controls is dealt damage, destroy it. Okay, so you play it and then you attack with all your 1/1s and force blocks, and then they die. That gives all your little guys death touch.
Yeah, essentially.
Does it say combat damage?
No, just damage.
Magic missiles, let's go.
Now who's talking about 9 mana combos?
Look, all right, you have fun your way. I will have fun my way.
It's a powerful ability. I don't know if there's a good way not to do this. I just hate that it's so telegraphed, right? That you have to play it first. It would just probably be too good otherwise, but
I wish it had flash on your turn only kind of thing. Flash anytime would be stupid, but
yeah.
The other thing is I feel like a lot of times the ability is going to be worthless. You're not going to have the creatures to back it up, or they'll just not block, because again, they do know it's coming. So how often are they going to be in a situation to where they have to block and the trades are in your benefit and you have the 6 mana? It seems so corner case.
Yeah, it's only good when you're the ability is only good when your board position is worse than theirs, right? When you have a lot of worse creatures, but then you probably can't just willy-nilly attack anyway.
Yeah, and if you're behind and your creatures are smaller, they're likely going to be in a position where they could just take that damage anyway because they've been ahead and doming you. So yeah, I mean, I think it's still fine. It's a 4/4 flyer for 6, which is okay, but I think this is probably my least favorite of all of the dragons so far. I don't really
Yeah,
remember. I was pretty tired.
I think this and the blue one that did like the -X, -O stuff are both at the bottom of the list for me. I guess where this is good is where you have creatures with the, if you deal combat damage to a player type abilities.
I do like the blue one a little bit more, just because even though it's not a great ability and it did seem out of place, it's an ability you can count on. The only time it doesn't do what it's supposed to do is if they just don't have creatures, which at that point I'm okay with that. Whereas,
yeah, I mean, it can also do it and have no impact, just like this can.
I mean, it really only doesn't have an impact if they have no creatures, right?
Well, it's -3. Like if they could have a 4/4 and you could have a 3/3 and you give it -3 -0, that doesn't really do anything, right? You can attack and bounce off each other.
Yes, but what I'm saying is it always does it, no matter, like, it's not as corner case to me, right? There's going to be so many more situations, especially because you can like pick and choose, because it's like -3, -2, and -1 or something like that. Is that correct?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, so it seems like it will do its job enough of the times, whereas this one, it doesn't seem like it's going to be relevant more often than not. I agree that this ability is probably has more upside. In the right situation, this is way stronger, but the other one is always going to be sucky, but at least do it all the time, I think. Or close.
Yes.
Consistency. Where are we at here? Hill Giant. A 7/6 for 6 mana. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life. So it's a slightly better honey mammoth. Badger mammoth.
Yes.
Honey mammoth badger? I don't know. Whatever.
I mean, putting these last 2 cards next to each other, I like this better than the dragon we just saw.
Yeah, I agree.
Not a lot better. I mean, flying is certainly important, but
I agree. This typically will block and beat better. I probably would still play this, and it helps you race a bit more. That dragon's only an uncommon, yeah.
I mean, they're probably in the same area of rating, maybe half point apart, but they're, you'd think in a dragon set that you'd have a more impressive card at the same cost as the common giant.
It depends. So, like, I think if you're maybe in Gruul, or if you're maybe in green-black. Golgari. I feel like the green dragon's gonna surprise us a little bit, because there was a ton of like multiple token generators in those, like create the spiders, create 1 to 3 goblins, things like that, and that'll make the dragon do some work. In any other color pairing, I think I like the Hill Giant better.
Yeah, that's fair. I also like that it's carrying a sheep in its hand.
Is it? Oh my gosh. It is.
Picking his teeth with a shepherd's crook.
Oh man, is that a bear or a dog next to it?
It's probably the guy that turns from a 2/4 into a 4/2.
I like this, yeah. Checks out. We'll put him at like a 2/5/2. Maybe he's closer to a 2. It's kind of tough to say. Hunter's Mark, guys, 4 mana. The spell costs 3 less to cast. If it targets a blue permanent you don't control. This can't be countered. Target creature gets +1/+1 till end of turn. Then it deals damage equal to its toughness to target creature or planeswalker you don't control. So it's like a one-sided fight, whatever that's called.
Yeah, it's a 4 mana punch. Fight, whatever
slap.
You want to call it, for lack of a better word. That just happens to only cost 1 if it targets something blue.
Yeah. So, and it's instant speed. I was gonna say it's a bit expensive for that, for even, for the ability. I typically really like the punch cards, but they're usually 2 to 3 mana. But they're usually also sorcery speed. So this is kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, we would play, in previous sets, we've played Hunt the Week and been happy with it, which was 4-mana sorcery +1/+1 counter and fight.
Yep, agreed.
You know, and we were always happy with that card. This is multiple upsides better than that. You're not fighting, you're at instant speed, and occasionally it's only going to cost you 1.
Definitely agree with that.
And it can't be countered. Not that that comes up that often, but
so this is just green's premium removal.
Yeah, I think this is like your mage duel in the last set, and, or actually more probably like the 2-mana devouring tendrils.
3/5.
Yeah.
Inspiring Bard. It is a 4-mana 3/3. When it enters the battlefield, target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn, or you gain 3 life. I'm not happy with either of these abilities, really.
that sums up my thoughts on the card pretty well. Fine filler, but even then, I'd rather play the first card we saw, the 4-mana 3/3 that gets bigger. And they're both uncommon.
Yeah, I agree. All right. 2?
Yep.
Teeny text, take it away.
Instrument of the Bard. Green mana for a legendary artifact. Beginning of your upkeep, you can put a Harmony counter on this. Pay 3 and a green, tap it, search your library for a creature card with mana value equal to the number of Harmony counters on Instrument of the Bards. Reveal it and put it into your hand. If that card's legendary, create a treasure token, then shuffle your deck. This card can generate some value over time, but it's painfully slow.
So you need to get it to you get it to 2, you get a 2-drop, which is expensive. And the next one you get it to 3, get a 3-drop, still expensive. And then you get it to 4, but then you get to leave it there and get like multiple 4-drops probably.
Yeah.
And I agree, it's slow and expensive.
Yeah, you're paying 4 mana for a restrictive tutor. To put it into your hand. Now you can do it at instant speed. It's not a sorcery only, so you can use it as a late game mana sink. End of turn mana sink, which is an upside. But this.
I would be more than happy to pay 4 to draw a random card usually in limited, so that doesn't bother me quite as much. The fact that it's not on a body. If this was a creature, I'd love the ability.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I mean, you're paying 4 to draw a card, although for the first turn, when you play this and the next turn, you probably can't even draw a card.
Yeah, and if it was on like a little dork, like a 1/2 or a 1/3, that would be a fine ability.
Yeah,
that would be more than fine, I think. I wish it did something.
Yeah, I agree. It is also, even though like these type of cards you usually think are good top decks later in the game, because you can start drawing cards. It's going to take you 3 or 4 turns to do anything. Yeah,
it's like drawing a blank. It's just drawing a blank, and you have to survive 2 or 3 more turns before that blank becomes possibly something moderate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It also forces you to awkwardly remember what cards are in your deck. So you know what creature costs you have.
Well, most of us are using untapped.gg, which keeps the deck tracker for you. And you guys should totally check the info section below and use the link to use our deck tracker and support the channel.
I'm glad you took that, because you jumped right on top of what I was exactly going to say that. It's like, but untapped.gg.
Who plays paper anymore? Untapped keeps track of our deck for us. It's fine. Yeah. And it is perfectly legal to fail to find.
Yes. It is depressing. Okay.
Okay, 1 it is. Moving along, guys. We have an Outlander, a 2-mana 3/2 with reach. When it attacks, if you attack with 6 power or more, you get to venture. Wow, this card's insane.
Yeah, just 2-mana 2/3 reach on its own, you're very happy with. It's a defensive creature, so the fact that it's an attacking trigger is a little weird, but that's fine. You attack when you need to, and if not, you're just perfectly happy with your 2-mana 2/3 reach.
I'm like insanely high on this card. Like, it's not super high impact immediately, but for 2 mana, it's literally the nuts. This has to be the best 2 mana you're ever going to spend.
I don't know. I prefer power word kill.
Which card was that?
Just the 2 mana, like kill almost anything.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. This is a very good card.
Yeah, and it's only an uncommon. Yeah, maybe removal spells, but this is better than most rares.
I don't know about that. I think still most of the time this is just going to be a 2 mana 2/3, which you're happy with, right? That's not
with
a bad
reach
card,
at least.
With reach, but that's not high impact.
I don't know. The 6 mana thing seems like it's like a whole synergy. So I think it'll come into play a little bit more than you might think, especially with like combat tricks and stuff. I mean, a lot of times like a rare 2-drop is like what? A 2/1 first striker? Like at its best usually. You see things like that a ton, or it's like a 2. What else do you see?
I mean, like rare 2-drops, we see like the 1/1 that puts a counter on something every turn. Or that was in a couple sets ago. I don't remember what
that one was really good.
What some 2 mana ones were last set.
There's just so many 2-drops that I see that are rare, and I'm just like, oh, this is very underwhelming. I'm thinking about the Celestial set, the one that was just like their 2 mana rare, was just like the 2/1 first striker, which was fine, but I passed it up every single time. I'm pretty
no argument. This is a good card.
Yeah, I'm pretty high on this at a 2-drop. It's like a 3, but I probably am going to give it a 3/5 just because I think it's so good. It's not impactful enough for a 3/5, but I think it's way better than any other 2-drop that we've ever given a 3. So.
Yeah, I'm actually on the. I think it's a 3, but I'm closer to 2/5 than 3/5.
Okay, this is probably one of the cards we have the farthest apart on. 6/2 for 5 mana, guys. Loathsome Troll. Sorry. For 4 mana, you can roll a dice, only active if Troll is in your graveyard, which is interesting. And then if you get a 1 through 9, you can put it into your library. 10 through 19, you can put it into your hand, and 20, you can put it onto the battlefield. That's kind of cute.
Yeah, this is a good recurring threat in the late game. You've got a 55% chance to effectively draw a card, whether it be in your hand or on the battlefield.
Yeah,
and you know your fail cases, you draw this again, which you're probably fine with.
Yeah, I like that. It looks like you can roll any time. You can do it at an instant speed.
Yep.
So that's fine too. I think this card is fine. The first time you play it, you're probably getting pretty bad value for a 5-drop, but then after that, it's just kind of free value. Unless you put it on top of your deck, which it's still probably better than most blank draws.
Yeah, I think you have to imagine that this is better than a random card.
And if you ever get to roll 2 dice, that'd be cute.
Yeah. Yeah, I like this card. Again, you usually don't like the 2 toughness on such a big card, like you said, but you like it a lot better when it can recur, so.
Yep. What are you thinking score-wise?
I have this at a 3.
Okay, I'm actually in the same boat.
Yep.
All right, long rest. Return X target cards with different mana values from your graveyard to your hand. If 8 or more cards were returned to your hand this way, your starting life total becomes equal to your... Wait. Your life total becomes equal to your starting life total. Exile this. X target cards. Okay. So for like 3, you get 3 cards. Or I'm sorry, for 6, you get like 3 cards.
For 6, yeah.
I meant 3 as an X is 3.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's expensive, but it's kind of cute.
I hate this card. I think this is unplayable. There's nothing. There are very few. Unless you have a ton of bombs, there's very few things I want to pay 4 to get back from my graveyard.
I'm never casting this for 4. I'm casting this as just like a late game draw. 3 basically. Draw the best 3 things I've played so far.
As long as they don't have the same mana cost.
Yes. Again, I don't think it's good, but like,
yeah, okay,
it will
that's
probably
fair.
get played.
Yeah, trying to remember what card this reminds me of. It's from like M15, whatever, it doesn't matter. That people took to a Pro Tour as a constructed deck that just like recycled a million cards out of their graveyard. But
And if I've got like two bombs for 5 mana, you get a bomb back and a blank, whatever, a 2-drop. Like, I'm still like fine with that. It's not good, but it's probably worth playing.
yeah, I don't know. This feels kind of like was the 4 mana like pseudo collected company type card from the last set.
From the last set?
That felt good, but like looked, it was a mythic. It like never ended up actually playing.
Oh, the green one. I know what you're talking about. The one that let you get them out of your deck, I think?
Yeah, it's like, this feels like there's value, but it's so expensive and it never actually is good.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I never played that. That card messed me up a couple times, but I still don't think it was even worth it when it went off. I mean, it killed me, but more often than not, it's just gonna be a dead card.
So yeah, something else would have killed you too.
When you see it, it kills you, but oftentimes it sits as a dead card. Yeah, like I still don't like that this much. Like, this is just a 2. And the card you're talking about, I probably would have picked up, but the problem is that card got drafted so highly because everybody thought it was good. So it wasn't something that kind of came around a bunch. I would happily pick this up at like pick 5 and probably play it, but that'll probably never happen because people rare draft for collection building purposes, right?
Yeah, I took that card early in one of our team drafts against Garbage Andy. I played green and still cut it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think the 2 is probably fine. I was probably a little over the top saying it's unplayable, but I think people are going to get tricked into taking this card earlier than they should.
Definitely. Yeah, me saying it's playable does not mean I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
Lurking Roper doesn't untap during your untap step. Whenever you gain life, untap. It's a 4/5 for 3.
I really hope whoever named this card was really just taking a shot at salty arena players.
Fair. It doesn't come into play tapped, so it's a good blocker very early. This is going to shut down any aggressive deck.
Oh yeah, this is fantastic against those decks.
It's probably good enough for me to... How many life gain triggers would I want to main deck this? I would need something that recurred.
I guess, yeah, this is a reason to, maybe not a good one, but a reason to play Druid class. Every land you get untaps this.
That's true. If you have like 2 of these, Druid class might be kind of cute.
Yeah, and it was a decent amount of life gain we saw in white. But you're right, you would want recurring options in order to make this good. But even without a ton of them, you're right, if you're not aggressive and you want to get this into the late game, this is better than any wall you're ever going to find, and people play walls.
Yeah, I'm happy to pick this up for the sideboard, for sure. And I'm even happy to play it main deck if I've got, like, let's say 2 or 3 cards that can gain life multiple times, and or like a crap ton of things that gain life once.
Yeah, I don't think we saw anything in white that could do it, and that would be the color. But if you had something that could give it vigilance, obviously it would be great.
Correct. Yeah, that's great.
Or you've got the blue common that you can tap to untap another permanent.
So this is probably... It's a 1 for sideboard purposes with no life gain, but it's also really, really good in a life gain deck. How good is it? Do we like it at like 3/5 in a life? And if you find the synergy, maximum effort synergy,
Yeah.
3/5?
Yeah, I actually think it's a little higher than that in a not higher than 3/5, but higher than a 1. Like I could see playing this without a bunch of life gain, just as a if you're a control-ish deck, or
Well-
a ramp deck that just needs to stay alive.
Yeah, possibly. Well, so if 3/5 is maximum synergy, what's minimal synergy, right?
Yeah, I think the bottom is probably more. I'm splitting hairs. It's probably more 1/5 than 1 because it's not completely unplayable in a normal green deck. Plus, it's got great flavor text.
Neverwinter Dryad, guys. 1 mana, 1/1. Sacrifice the Dryad, search your library for a basic forest card, and put that onto the battlefield tapped and shuffle. So it ramps, it's a body. It's kind of fine.
Yeah, I really want to be ramping to ever play this card because it's a body, but not really at a 1 mana 1/1.
Agreed. And it does specify forest, so it doesn't fix for splashing purposes.
Yeah, it's like a really terrible Sakura Tribe Elder for modern Scapeship fans. But there are decks that really want to get to 4 or 5 really quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's playable, but it's going to be a cut in most decks.
Agreed.
Real quick, Golden Guys and Big Ben, thank you guys for those subs during our set review. I'm probably just going to give it like a 2.
Yeah, I think I'm a little low. I think I'm at 1/5 on this, but
yeah,
it's fine. It's not the worst to put it in your deck.
So I'm kind of like hedging towards those decks that do really want to ramp, and 3 mana for a ramp spell, and it's a body if you don't want a ramp spell. And I actually kind of like that because later in the game you top deck your, even your cultivate, which is a little bit better, but you're just like, oh boo, this is a blank. Where I don't know, 1/1's kind of fine. I'll let you take this one.
Ochre Jelly, green X for a 0/0 ooze with trample. Enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. So that part of the card we saw, like Ivy Elemental and Ikoria, basically be the same thing, except for the trample. But it has this ability split. When it dies, if it had 2 or more counters on it, create a token that's a copy of it at the beginning of the next end step, and the token enters the battlefield with half that many counters on it, rounded down. This seems really annoying to play against.
And it's a copy of it, so it'll keep dividing until it's smaller and smaller.
Until it gets to a 1/1, at which point it won't anymore.
Yeah, so if it starts out at 10, and then it goes to 5, round down to 2, and then a 1/1.
Yeah.
It's cute.
Yeah, that's assuming you haven't been able to put more counters on it.
Yes. I haven't seen a ton of counter synergy, but yeah.
No, there hasn't been. Yeah, I mean, 4 mana for, if you ignore even the last ability, right? 4 mana for a 3/3 trample, 5 mana for a 4/4 trample, etc. That all, and the fact that it can scale, just the flexibility there is good enough on its own.
Yeah.
And then the fact that, unless you're playing this for 2 mana, which you're never going to, you're getting at least 1 counter off, 1 second body off of it.
Info's asking what happens if you mutate onto this. It gets the counters on top of the mutate creature, just like the same as the you mentioned, what was the elemental name?
Ivy Elemental.
Ivy Elemental, yeah. You just get the creature that mutated with the counters. So rating wise, like a 3/5.
Yeah, I think that's right.
But I think, I mean, it's hard to imagine that you're getting it's going to be cast frequently enough or high enough to where it recurs for me to want to give it a 4. All right, we have another 7-drop dragon flying 7/7. This is the biggest one yet, right? We saw a 6/6 and now a 7/7.
Yeah.
Whenever a creature you control dies or deals combat damage to a player, create that many treasure tokens. That's a lot of treasure tokens. So this is Gruul, most likely. Because that's the red is the color that wants all the tokens, right?
Red and black.
Yeah, I was gonna say red and black, so this is kind of a bit weird, but
yeah, this is really, to me, unless you're trying to fuel a late game splash, this is just a 7 mana 7/7 flyer. You've already got 7. Creating a bunch of treasure isn't really. You probably don't have a ton of cards in your hand at that point either. Probably isn't that.
Yeah, I think unless you're in red, which a lot of the things on the board will want treasures.
Yes, if you have cards that care about, spending mana via treasures, then that ability matters.
Hopefully you play this, dome them once, get 7 treasures, and then they kill it, which, you either win or they kill it, and then all of your draws thereafter have slightly more value because you have the treasure tokens. My shins are good. I have not missed one yet.
Yeah, and the fact that you can actually. The one nice thing about it is that it's the fact it's whenever any creature deals combat damage to a player, means that you can play this, hit with something, and then play something else with those treasures. So you do get a little bit of a relevant mana boost that first turn, potentially.
Rating-wise, I mean, it doesn't do a ton. It's just a really expensive flying trampler, which is good. So I'm thinking like a 4.
Yeah, I think it's a 4. They got to kill it. And they're going to have to spend the spell on it because nothing's going to be able to, box with it, so.
Yeah. So the difference between our 4s, guys, is like 4s are typically cards that will win you games, or premium removal, or things that will win you the games if left unanswered. The 5 is the things that win you the game if left unanswered and are difficult to answer and or leave lasting value. Like, play this 7 mana, draw 3 cards. Those 3 cards that you drew, even if they answer it right away, they're still going to have trouble dealing with. So it's like an added, it's better than a 2-for-1 kind of thing at its worst. Whereas that's a 7 mana or 7/7, which could just get killed. We have a 5 mana 4/4. The Owl Bear. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. For trample, 4/4 for 5. That's not bad. And it replaces itself.
Yeah, it's got the 3 best words in Magic on it. Draw a card. I'm in.
Stupid blue player.
Oh, this card's great. 5 mana 4/4 trample on its own is slightly under value, but replacing itself, I'm in all day for this card.
Agreed. I like this at like a 3.
Yeah,
maybe a 3/5.
I could see it being a 3/5, but it is 5 mana. You do have to watch how much you have at the higher mana cost. So
yeah, it's probably like a 3/5, but you like can't run too many of them.
Agreed.
Plummet is going to be a sideboard card. With all of the dragons, if you are light on playables, you could probably play this and find a target reasonably frequently compared to normal, but I mean, it's still just sideboard. Unless you have another choice.
It's nice that it has some value against like green decks where it usually wouldn't. But yeah, it's still just a sideboard card.
The nice thing too is that each color has 2 dragons in addition to any other flyers that color may or may not have. So a lot of times when you run this, you're risking, like, yeah, if they're playing white or blue, you'll likely find a target, but if they're playing black-red, you probably wouldn't. Whereas in this set, every color is going to have access to a flyer, so it's a little less risky, but still not optimal if you have anything playable.
Yeah, agreed. You could do worse than this for your 23rd card if you have to.
Innkeeper. When it enters the battlefield, create a treasure token. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life.
I think I just have PTSD from the Innkeeper that drew 4,000 cards with adventure spells.
Yeah, the word Innkeeper, you're just like, oh god, oh god. Please rotate, please rotate. So this is a card that works with our tree that we like so much. Without the tree, I don't think I like it.
Yeah, without the tree or without some of like the white life gain synergies we saw. It does help splash with the treasure token. It helps ramp a little bit, 1-shot ramp. So it's got some value, but it is still a 2 mana 1/1. So I need a reason to play this. I'm not just going to put it in my deck.
I agree with that. So then we give it, this is almost a split rating card. I feel like you're right. If we have a splash or ramp, we're pretty happy. Life gain synergy. So in the deck that wants this card, it's really nice, but for the most part, all the other decks don't want it. But yeah, so this actually, even though it's pretty small impact, it might actually just be a split rating card. Because a lot of decks really do want the double tree deck wants this card.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you could argue it just averages out to like a 2, considering I don't hate it in the normal deck just because it is ramping me. And
well, so here's the thing: I don't want to like average numbers because then all of our split ratings could be averaged, right? So the difference between the split rating for me when I try to do it is when there is a huge difference between wanting it and not wanting it at all. Like if we're like, oh, maybe it's this, maybe, you know, we're off by a half a point or a point in our personal ratings, we could average those together, kind of hedge a bit. But I mean, if something is completely unplayable half the time and very, very playable another time, then like averaging them together doesn't really help the viewer. If they see this card and we give it a 2, they're like, oh, it's okay in all decks. Because that's what the 2 is.
Like, I think to me this card is in that it's like a 1/5 or a 2/5. Like I don't think it has huge high end.
Okay. 1/5 or 2/5. Okay. Purple Worm. It costs 2 less if you cast a creature. If a creature died this turn, it's fine. And with ward 2. That's actually pretty good. I think that's fine.
Yeah. Paying 1 mana more than the Hill Giant for, you know, +1/+1, but sometimes it'll be cheaper and you get ward. Yeah, this card's good. Yeah, I think again, there's a lot of big things so far, especially in green. So you're going to be restricted at the top end of your mana curve to how many things you can play. But
it's not going to be hard for this to be 5 mana. You just attack. They're going to have to do it eventually. And then when they don't block or whatever, or chump or combat trick, what, I don't know what the case may be, then you just play your other creature, right? Your 4-drop or your 5-drop, whatever you happen to have left. And then next time you just attack again and see what happens. I like this card.
Oh yeah, card's good. I'd probably have it in the 3, maybe 3/5 range.
Yeah, I have it at a 3. It's still just kind of a big dumb idiot without trample, so.
Sure.
Oh, and guys, if you were curious about the innkeeper, I did 1/3. I don't think I actually said that out loud, sorry. It seems like we were a half a point off on the low side and a half a point off on the high side, but like same general idea.
Yeah.
I hate that card more in most decks, and I like the card more in specific decks.
Which makes sense, given that you're higher on synergy decks than I am.
I do tend to lean about a half a point higher. I have so much PTSD from, we've been wrong on synergy for like multiple sets. It seems to be more built in.
I think we were pretty right last set. The major synergy stuff, like the Lorehold Exile stuff, never really came together that well, and Witherbloom was very hit or miss.
Yeah, but I still rated it higher than I would have. Like, the last set or two is when I started rating synergy higher.
Sure, yeah.
All right, Ranger class guys. When it enters the battlefield, create a 2/2 for 2. So I'm already happy with this card. Like, it's already done its job. It's made a bear for 2. Everything else is just extra, so let's see how much extra. Whenever you attack, put a +1/+1 counter on target attacking creature. Holy shit, for 2 more mana, this is great. It could do nothing else and I'd be still really happy.
Agreed.
For 4, you can look at the top card of your library anytime. You may cast creature spells off the top of your library. Holy shit! Hello, 4.
Yeah, this is definitely the best class we've seen so far.
It's really good. Ranger's Longbow. Equip creature gets +2/+1 and has reach. Equip 3. I mean, I usually tend to steer away a little bit from the 3 equips, but the added key term here is something that was missing from a lot, and I do like that.
Yeah, green doesn't seem to be in the colors that care too much about equipment, and I kind of wish the green equipment gave trample with some of the big things we've seen that don't have them.
Agreed.
But, yeah, this card is okay. I think I would generally, if I'm giving something reach, I'd rather have like +1/+2 than +2/+1, because it's a defensive equip. But
we've been seeing a lot of that role reversal lately with the backwards fighter.
That's true.
And every time I've hated it less than you, because like, especially in the last couple of sets where they had the 4/4 angels, like, yeah, I would definitely rather kill it than have a 2/5 that bounced it, or even a 2/4 that just didn't box with it. So I don't mind spiders having their butt where their face should be, but that's just personal preference, I think. And also I like the idea that like sometimes you don't need to block flyers, and then you can beat them down with giant face spiders. So I actually like it more.
I don't want to see a giant face spider. That sounds very frightening.
Right? And then if you do need to block, you trade, and like that's okay. Sometimes it's a little bad if you have a 4/2 and they have a 2/2, but I mean it kills what it needs to kill, so I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I dislike that less on creatures than I do on the equipment, because I like trading less because now I have to re-equip it.
True.
But yeah, this card is playable. I've got it like a 2.
Agreed. I like a 2 as well. Scaled Herbalist. It is tap. You may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. Okay, so it's a bit of a ramp. We've seen this. This was like a little satyr not that long ago, right?
Yeah. I'm never a fan of this ability. Because you have to have the land. It's not really, it's so many times the ability is absolutely useless. But it's still a fine body at 2 mana 1/3, so it's not a bad card.
So it's filler with some decent upside in that it gets to ramp you to your 4 and 5. I mean, you don't get to get those lands out, but it comes in handy early game. Like if you're not going to miss your 3 and 4 drop, it puts some good work in for sure. But again, I wouldn't play it for that purpose, especially like if you want to ramp into big things. This is not the card that's going to do it for you, because you're not actually getting any of that extra mana. So like out of the deck, so it's not going to help. You're going to ramp with the mana you already have and then still stall at 5 and not be able to hit that 7 drop. But it is going to help you get to your 4 and 5s faster. So I do like it if you don't have better 2s. Happy to play it if I need it, but...
Yeah, I can agree with that. I'll play this if I don't have better options at 2. Yeah, but you got it like a 2.
Someone's saying they brain farted on how classes work. So we're doing set review videos in chunks, so I can't go over it again here because everybody's watching has already been through that. But there is a introduction video that we produced first that goes over all the new mechanics. So if you guys are watching this on YouTube, you guys can already check that out. It's already live. It is the Forgotten Realms introduction. So yeah, check that out. Spoils of the Hunt. I'll let you take that one.
2 and a green instant. Target creature you control gets +1/+0 until end of turn for each mana from a treasure that was spent to cast the spell. Then that creature punches a creature in the face.
So it's a instant cast 3 mana punch unless you have treasures.
Yeah, in which case it's the same. You just get to kill something bigger.
Yeah.
This card's great. I don't need a single treasure maker in my deck to play this card.
I mean, it's instant speed, which is nice, but the other one was sorcery speed, 2 mana, and you gained 2 life. If you have no treasures, I mean.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's not the best screen removal spell ever printed, but I will be happy to run it.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a 3, and the creatures have actually been bigger in this green set than they have been in the last few.
Yeah. And the fact that it's a punch and not a fight means it works well with things like the 4/1 we saw, or
yeah, and because it's an instant, you can play around getting 2 for 1 with it much easier than you can things like Hunt the Weak. You can do it on their end step. You can do it after they cast a creature. So like, you get to do it a little bit more on your terms. You could do it in response to a pump or combat or something like that, which gives you 2-for-1 options. So yeah, the upside is really high on this. I think it's a 3. I don't like it as much as I like the other card.
No, agreed. It's not as good as the other green removal spell, but 3 sounds right.
All right, Sylvan Shepherd, guys. Vigilance 2/3 for 3. It's already, got the 2+ stat or 2+ rating because it's a 2/3 for 3, but has a keyword, which I like. That's not trample. And then you can, when it attacks, you can either gain a life, gain 2 life, or gain 5 life, depending on how well you roll. So that's kind of nice. 2 3s with vigilance means that I like my 2 3s to block for sure, so you can still beat down if that's profitable for you. And each time you do, you get a little bit of a life gain bonus. So this is going to be great with the tree card. So it is nice that we're seeing a couple of... I was concerned because we were halfway through when we saw the tree and didn't see any good green, small, reoccurring triggers. And since then, we've seen 2, which makes me like the tree a lot more.
Yeah, this is definitely good with that card. Incidental life gain is always nice to have, even if you don't have synergies on a card that you would play anyway.
Yep. So I think this is a 2/5. I'm not quite excited about it, but I think it's a little bit better than filler.
Yeah, agreed.
All right. The Trask. I don't know how to rate this thing. It's a meme. Half of it's a meme, half of it's a serious thing. I don't even know. Okay, so it's a giant thing for a giant amount of mana, which makes it basically untouchable, but doesn't have trample. But it fights for free? I mean, it's got to be good.
Yeah, I mean, there's no questioning the power level on the card. It's just, it's 9 mana. And how easily are we going to be able to cast it?
So I think the thing that's going to make this playable is the treasure count. Mm-hmm. Do you have enough cards that do something worthwhile on their own and give you a bonus treasure? Because you don't want to just pump a bunch of shit treasure cards into your deck and then draw all of those and not draw this, because that would suck. But if you've got ETB, make a treasure, and then you just have a vanilla body with it, if you have enough of those, that could make it worth it. This could be a reason maybe you play one of those land enchantments.
Yeah, if you've got a couple things that you want to cast, the 7 drops or this.
Yeah, if you have this and a dragon, we're okay to run one of those.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that's great about this card is it's impossible to remove. Ward 10, even though it's not hexproof, it might as well be hexproof. And you're going to get, since it has haste and immediately fight something, you're probably getting your card of value right there, even if, somehow they untap into 12 mana and power word kill this.
Wasn't there a red spell that can be countered? Red burn spell? I think it was a rare. How did that card work? Can that kill this?
I don't think it could deal 10. No, I mean, Magic Missile couldn't be countered, but that only dealt 3. Yeah. I mean, I think the only things I can think of that kill it are the hard black spells or the -11. But, that already costs, 6?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ties to a 1/1 Death Touch.
Yeah, I mean, that's the weakness of the card, right? Because it's a fight, it's not a punch.
And it says you have to fight. It says it attacks, it fights target creature defending player controls. So most likely you're going to be needing to 3-for-1 yourself on this card is how you're going to deal with it, because they have to fight and then you double block, probably. Or you just only play a 1/1 Death Toucher and just fucking sit there and stare at them. Be like, come get it. And then they draw a removal spell and then you cry. But,
Yeah, I mean, you do have I think there was a black, I'm just scanning it right now, instant speed trick that gave things Death Touch.
Someone's saying that this card makes them so sad as a D&D player. I've seen so many complaints by D&D players about this card. It just does not make sense to me. The Trask is huge. It's untouchable, hard to hit, which Ward 10 exactly does that. And they're like, oh, but maybe it's too hard to cast. Like, you don't walk out of every single town and see a Tarrasque either. They're pretty rare. So, like, I don't know. For me, this thing's like 10 out of 10 flavor. But it does seem like it upsets everybody because they want the Tarrasque to say, you win the game. Cast this card for 2 mana. And the Tarrasque is the strongest thing there is, for sure. But, like I said, they're not around every corner. They're big, scary monsters that are pretty rare. So, I like it. 10 out of 10.
Yeah, the weakness of this card is opposing Death Touchers. But otherwise, it's pretty much going to win you the game.
Yep. We're only playing it though. That's the problem. Is if you have the support for it. I don't know if I'm playing a 9-drop in just a normal deck. Like, a lot of yours are like 6 drops, too expensive, never played them, and I'm like, yeah, it's fine. I'm very free with the 6 drops, maybe even a 7-drop. A 9-drop though, I don't know. I'm way more hesitant.
I think I would in this set, partly because you're almost certainly going to end up with some incidental treasures.
Yes. I just don't know if that's going to be the case for every deck. Like, we saw a couple of treasures in green, but not a ton. And then what if you're in, like, white, which is also a no treasure, business?
Yeah, I don't... You're right, it's not going to show up in literally every deck, but I think the vast majority of the green decks will play this card, unless they have a whole bunch of... unless their whole deck is 6s and 7s, and they don't think they can get to 9.
I feel like this card is a 1/4. Because
I have a hard...
Go ahead.
I have a hard time seeing a deck where I'm seeing many decks where I'm not going to play this card. Maybe that's incorrect, but at least for me, I feel like I'm always putting this in my deck.
I think green white and green blue, I'm probably not playing it. Green black and green red, I am playing it. And all of the green green black and green red decks have enough treasures where I'm confident that I'll be able to cast it pretty consistently. I'm very happy, which is why I gave it like the 4. And then I think in the other 2 colors, I'm worried it's just going to be a 9-drop that I'm going to stare at 7 mana for like 7 turns.
Green white, I think is probably the most likely one you're not going to play with. Green blue is usually trying to get to the super late game. So I think you're more likely to want to play it there, but I can definitely see some green white decks maybe not.
I don't know, my green blue decks usually are a lot more tempo-y.
Yeah, I don't know. My deck has blue. I counter things and draw cards.
Tap things, bounce things. Smash them with 4/4.
That's no fun.
That's the definition of fun. Look it up.
Yeah, but you could not smash them with the 4/4, wait, and then later on smash them with the 10/10.
I'm going to kill you in your sleep someday. All right. I'm giving it a split rating. 2/1, 2 mana, Death Toucher. Fine. I mean, I'd rather it just be a Danger Noodle. 1/1 for 1 with Death Touch. I don't really care that much about the extra booty, but also I don't really care that it's 2 mana instead of 1 either.
Yep, but clearly you put it in the arena with the Tarrasque and it wins, so.
Boss says he agrees with the blue player. It's okay, you're allowed to be wrong also.
Yeah, I said I'd rather my Death Toucher be 1 mana, but I also sometimes we get them only at 3 mana, and I'm happier with it being 2, so, you're going to play this card, but not super excited about it.
They were like, well, we printed a bunch of 1/1s. We also printed a bunch of 2/2s for 3. Let's be original. Let's do something else. Why don't we make it a 2-drop? We won't give it the extra toughness, but we will give it the extra booty. Done.
Yeah.
R&D has done their job. They made new product. I'm gonna let you take this one.
Varus Silvery Moon Ranger. 1 green for a 3/3 legendary human elf ranger with reach and ward 1. Whenever you cast a creature or planeswalker, venture into the dungeon. You can only do this once per turn. Whenever you complete a dungeon, make a 2/2 wolf.
This card's awesome.
Yeah. 3 mana, 3/3, good stats on its own. Two relevant keywords. One basically every turn you get to venture.
It's pretty slow, but if left undealt with, it's gonna kill people. Every creature venturing is such good value, guys. That's a nice trigger.
Yeah. I think the 2/2 wolf creature token part of the card is kind of just a very small added bonus because you're probably only doing that once a game. If this is still on the board, but that's fine. The rest of the card's great.
Yeah, if this thing isn't dealt with, I could see it happening twice in creature on creature decks that get those really deep, long board states where you end up winning because you have 9 creatures and they have 6 kind of thing. This is gonna trigger twice, which is really, really nice. But I agree, you're probably not getting it for 2 reasons. Either they haven't dealt with it, meaning they're dead, and you were able to kill them, or they have dealt with it before you could play enough creatures. So I think this is still a 4. My definition of a 4 being that it will win the game if left undealt with, because I think that's what this does.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, the Wandering Troubadour. It is a 4/2 for 4 at the beginning of your end step. If you had a land enter the battlefield under your turn, this turn venture. Ooh, I like this. It's a little expensive for the body, but you get, again, it's one of the venture triggers that you can get reasonably often.
Yeah, I don't mind the weird, power toughness combination when you're okay with the card not getting into combat because you're getting the trigger just having it sit there. I don't quite understand why 4 mana 4/2 guy with a loot is a dragon, but
yeah, who doesn't fly. So it's like the penguin of the dragon world.
Yeah.
I think it's like a 2/5. It's not to the point where I'm excited about it. Now, if you have any venture synergies, like when you complete a dungeon, make a 2/2, then this is going to go up quite high in value. If you're playing it, with something else that has those payoffs. On its own, though, you're going to get a couple of ventures. Those ventures are pretty mild, and I think you're paying a little too much for the body as is. So yeah, maybe you're not actually. Trying to think about it, like red sometimes has 4/2s for 3, but usually they're 3/2s for 3, so maybe it's actually fine.
Yeah, I think it's a little expensive. Like, I want one more point of something there.
That's true. Mana. Most of the 4/3s are all 4 mana, but they kind of have worse abilities too, so maybe this is just a little bit better than I'm giving it credit for.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in the same range, like a 2/5.
Okay. All right, Werewolf Pack Leader. Pack Tactics. Whenever Werewolf Pack Leader attacks, if you attacked with 6 power or more, draw a turn. Wait, what? It costs 2 mana, it's a 3/3?
Yeah.
And it draws shit?
Yeah.
There's no more, the rest of this text better be bad. For 4 mana until end of turn, it gets base power of toughness 5/3, gains trample, and isn't a human. So it just gets +2/+0 and becomes not a wolf? Or become not a human?
Yeah.
Okay, well, the 4 mana, okay, that's good. It's not actually 4 mana, that's pretty bad for 4 mana. And that's a good thing because the rest of this card is nuts, so.
Yeah. 2 mana, 3/3, great. I mean, awkward casting cost. You're not always going to be able to play it on turn 2, but that's fine. The 4 mana ability, I think, is really only useful because it helps you hit that total power 6 or greater. So if you don't have something else to do, giving it trample, a couple extra points power, and then drawing a card for your mana, it can be worth it. But yeah, this is just a very overrate card.
Yeah. What do you like it at?
I would say I have this card at about a 3. It might be a 3/5. The casting cost means sometimes you're not going to play it till like turn 4, in which case it's still good, but it's just a 3/3 like on regular curve at that point.
In a 2-color deck, I don't mind the casting cost. Double pip cards don't scare me quite as much. I think that the draw card option, especially because, you know, it doesn't need to do combat damage to a player or anything, so you just don't attack until you're guaranteed to draw the card. I like this card a fair amount more, knowing that it'll at least replace itself, and if you're ahead, it's going to snowball you into being way ahead to where they can't then deal with it, and you get multiple cards. So I think the upside on this card is really high.
Oh yeah, I agree. There's definite upside. You can pair this with some removal, so you can keep attacking with it and drawing cards.
Yeah, the draw card ability seems really strong on this sort of aggressive creature. Yeah, you could just be gaining, drawing cards on turn 3, 4.
Yeah, I might be a little low on it. Maybe 3-5 is better.
Yeah, I'm like 3-5, almost 4. All right, wild shape, guys. For 1 mana, choose one. Until end of turn, target creature you control has base power of toughness of the chosen creature type and gains that ability. It's a 1/3 turtle with hexproof, a 1/5 spider with reach, or an elephant 3/3 with trample. That's kind of cute.
Yeah, I'm mostly looking at this as like your 1 mana give something hexproof and counter a removal spell.
Yep. The only problem with that is a lot of times when you want hexproof, it's like when you're blocking. So like you block your 4/4 onto their 3/3, right? They attack you, you block, and then they go to burn it or something. And then you give it hexproof, but it turns into an itty bitty turtle and dies anyway. So it is more awkward in that it changes your creature, which sometimes could be for the better. For the instant, like for like a spider, you might want something. The elephant might actually eat something if it's a smaller creature. But I could see a situation where turning it into a 1/3 is actually worse.
Oh yeah, there are definite times when that's not going to be what you want to do. But the fact that it has the other flexibility, particularly the reach, you can ambush a X1 flyer or gang block a bigger flyer or something.
Yeah.
Or even just stonewall a 4/4 flyer and change the clock on a race.
Yeah, this is an awkward combat hexproof. I like this way less than what we've seen in the past, but I like the flexibility too. So, that is, just be careful when you're getting into combat, because sometimes you could just make things worse by turning your thing into a weird thing for an ability.
Agreed. I've got this at like a 2.
Yeah, I like that. All right, you find a cursed idol. What do? Do you smash it, destroy target artifact? Perfect flavor. Or do you steal its eyes, create a treasure token, and venture into the dungeon? I was about to be upset. I was like, you get 2 treasure tokens, right? There's 2 eyes. It literally said plural, but it saved the day by venturing.
You also have the option to lift the curse to destroy target enchantment.
Oh, there was words in the middle?
Yes.
Oops. Fair enough. Touche, Yanks. This is why we keep him around.
So this is, your 1 and a green destroy target artifact or enchantment spell. Now, usually those things are at sorcery speed or at instant speed. So
this is flexible.
Worse, but you get the flexibility of the last option.
Unless you want treasure tokens and you have like venture synergies, I mean, this is still a sideboard card to me. I might put it in the main deck if I have the other synergies, and then I can decide to do one of the other 2 if they're relevant, but probably not happening very often.
Yeah, I could definitely see in like, this is the kind of card in like best of 3 where you take this over like your mediocre playable because it's such a good sideboard card. And then as your deck progresses, you might end up actually wanting this in your deck.
Yeah, I agree with that. It is such a good sideboard card, and then you take enough of them and you don't have quite enough playables, so this is just like a 23rd, which, yeah that's definitely fine.
I think normally these cards are like mediocre sideboard cards, But the fact that I think class enchantments in particular make these much better sideboard cards than usual.
I agree with that. The class cards seem pretty powerful, and there's 2 of every color, I think.
Yeah, plus some multicolor ones.
And equipments. There's a crap ton of equipments,
Agreed.
and they're better than normal.
Agreed.
Actually, maybe that just makes this playable. Yeah, makes it much better than it typically would be in another set. Yeah, so Yanks read the rest of the card. That's why we pay him the big bucks. I promised Yanks he could have all the ad revenue from all of our set review.
I'm making big plans for that money.
We got demonetized. We make no money on YouTube. Don't tell Yanks. All right, you happen upon a glade. Do you journey on? Search your library for up to 2 basic lands, reveal them, and put them into your hand and shuffle. For 3 mana, that's fine. Or do you make camp? Return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. Oh, this is fine. I like it for the ramp spell a bunch. Like, we play this with the Tarask. Boom. Done. Now I'm much happier with Tarask.
Yeah, we had this, like, that second half of that card, this exact effect on the back half of a land a couple sets ago in Zendikar, right? The colony something or other.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that card was good because of the flexibility to get something back or play it as a land. I think this is probably a little bit worse because you don't just get to replace you don't get to play it for free as a land slot, but there are definitely decks that want the ramp or the splash abilities. So
I think this is actually better than most ramp. So if you draw it early, it ramps you into the dragons. If you draw it late, where most ramp is no longer useful, you just get to replay dragon. Right? It turns what ramp, it helps mitigate what the downside of having ramp in your deck is, and that's usually the drawing it late.
Agreed.
I mean, you're still paying 3 more for it, but you're still getting all of those benefits of having it with no downside. So I actually like this way more than most.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. We both frame this differently. I'm looking, I don't know, it sounds like you're looking at this primarily as a ramp spell that has another ability. I'm looking at it as a regrowth that also can find you land.
Oh, that makes sense. I usually don't like the green regrowths. They're usually not worth it in limited.
No, a lot of times I don't either. But that's why I was thinking about the one from Zendikar where you played it and it was good because of the flexibility involved, just like this.
Okay. I probably just don't know that one. Yeah, you're right, though. We are basically putting the front end of the value on this in different sides. So that's one of the first times we've really seen something so differently. I'll tell you guys about YouTube in a minute. I don't want to put it in this video. This is our longest one yet.
Yeah, there's only one more.
Go ahead.
You meet in a tavern. 2 green sorcery. Choose one. Form a party. No, there's no party mechanic in this set.
Bullshit.
Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal any number of creature cards from among them and put them into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library. Or start a brawl. Creatures you control get +2/+2 until end of turn.
At sorcery speed, though, I would like this as like a flexible card, but +2/+2 with sorcery speed is way less fun.
Yeah, I think you're going to play this card in like a 15 creature deck where you're probably pretty likely to hit 2 with this card. But if you can't reliably hit at least 2 creatures, then I don't want to play this.
Yes, so I do think this is pretty close to another one of our split rating cards. So here's the thing about this particular one in comparison to most of the split ratings. Most of our split ratings are good on either side. Like if you're ahead, this side is good. If you're behind, this side is good, so on and so forth. So there are very different situations, whereas this is kind of the same situation. The more creatures you have in your deck, the more you'll find with the first one. The more creatures you have in your deck, the more likely it is you'll get good pumps on the second half. So it's good for the creature deck in like a very more like inclusive way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, agreed. It doesn't have 2 different decks. It just has 2 different effects.
Yeah, so like the white one, for instance, it's like, okay, if you're a little bit behind, you can deal damage. If you're ahead, then you can pump. So it's like 2 different sides of a coin, where this feels like the coin is both heads, and they're stronger for giving you the option to do both. Which I kind of like.
Agreed.
So it's like a 1 or a 3, and gets a 1 if you are under, we'll say the line is like 14 and under, 15 plus, it gets better.
Yeah. That sounds good to me.
All right, that's the end of green, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching our video. I will be posting the next 2 multicolor and colorless within the next couple hours. So by the time you're watching this, it's probably already up. If you guys want to check out the other ones, make sure you guys do so, including the introduction one. I know a lot of people might have missed that. I actually always post that in the beginning of my set reviews, so you guys can go over a lot of the mechanics and things that you don't see in these videos. Thank you guys again so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys! I'd like to give a special thank you to those of you who have signed up for our Patreon. I couldn't make this content without you. Also to Cool Stuff Inc. and KMC Sleeves for supporting the channel as well. Definitely check them out and use our discount codes to support the channel.